Are you looking for an athletic scholarship? You're in the right place. This is the Recruit Me Athletic Scholarship Podcast, the longest-running podcast on recruiting and athletic scholarships. We're here to help your family navigate the recruiting road all the way to an athletic scholarship. He's a recruiting expert and a dad of 2 college athletes. He has a wealth of experience to share. Here's Recruit Me CEO, Brent Hanks.
Welcome to the Athletic Scholarship Podcast and a Year in Review 2022, episode 334. Like the introduction said, I'm Brent Hanks, the host of the Athletic Scholarship Podcast and the owner and CEO of Recruit Me. Recruit Me is a recruiting education company that provides as many free and inexpensive recruiting resources as possible. The Athletic Scholarship Podcast is one of those free resources. Go to recruit-me.com to see all the other resources and to listen to all the past 333 episodes. During this holiday season, it's time for both looking back at the past year and looking ahead to the next year. Today, we look back at the past year of the Athletic Scholarship Podcast episodes. I hope going through each episode and briefly covering what the episode is and bringing out a key point or two in the episode will encourage you to go back and listen or re-listen to that or those episodes. You can easily listen and learn about the recruiting process by listening as you drive to work or school, drive to a game or practice, or do chores. Most of the episodes are 15 to 20 minutes long and cover a variety of topics to help you save time, money, and stress in your journey. These episodes are helpful for both the high school student athlete, their family, and can even help a high school coach or a club coach or a college student athlete looking to transfer from a 2-year or a 4-year college. The 2022 year starts with an episode covering Myth 4 of 10 myths that are found in the Recruit Me 3.0 system manual. Let's get started. A Year in Review 2022. Episode 283, Myth number 4. I can wait until my senior year to look for athletic scholarships. The Athletic Scholarship Podcast started off the new year with a restart in the myths about athletic scholarships. Myth number 4 is I can wait till my senior year to look for athletic scholarships. And the truth is that the recruiting process can take a year or more, so high school student athletes need to start their freshman or sophomore years. The recruiting starts to speed up the most during their junior year of high school. Episode 284. This one is mislabeled myth number 6, but it's actually myth number 5. Most athletic scholarships are full ride. Like I said, the episode was mislabeled as myth number 6. And myth number 5 is that most athletic scholarships are full rides. The truth is that it is just the opposite. Other than football and basketball, it is rare for a male athlete to get a full ride athletic scholarship. Coaches are heavily regulated by the NCAA, NAIA, and junior college administrations for scholarships. College coaches will try to stretch their dollars, just like you will try to stretch your education dollars. Episode 285, Myth number 6. My high school coach or guidance counselor will get me a scholarship. The truth is, few high school coaches or counselors have neither the time nor the knowledge to take charge of your recruiting. They might have a few contacts at colleges where they can promote their exceptional athletes. But you'll need more than just a few colleges looking at you if you want the best chance of receiving a scholarship. You need to be talking to several dozen coaches. Episode 286, Myth number 7. I have to be the best player on my team to get any athletic financial aid. This episode continues the myth series, and myth number 7 is I have to be the best player on my team to get any athletic scholarships. The truth is you don't have to be a blue chip or a 5-star recruit to get an opportunity to play your college sport. Colleges rarely have the budget or the time to see all prospects. You need to market yourself. If a college coach doesn't know you exist, they can't recruit you. So no matter what size of school that you play at, or whether you're the 6th man on a basketball team or the 3rd pitcher on the baseball team, you can get out and market yourself. Episode 287, Myth number 8. Schools only give scholarships for the money sports, like football and basketball. With myth number 8, schools only give scholarships for the money sports, like football and basketball. The truth is colleges give scholarships in most every established sport, but most scholarships are partial. But they do make scholarship money available for a wide range of sports. Episode 288, an interview with Jake Hedrick, former college basketball coach. In episode 288, you get the first interview of the year as the Athletic Scholarship Podcast jumps out of the Myth series to give you an interview with an ex-college basketball coach, Jake Hedrick. Coach Hedrick has coached at the JUCO level, the NAIA Division II, and the NCAA Division I levels. Episode 289, Myth number 9, Coaches resent being contacted by prospective athletes. In episode 289, it's back to myth number 9 about athletic scholarships. The truth about this myth are that coaches hope to hear from student athletes. Coaches need to refill their rosters yearly, and coaches don't have the time or the budget to recruit everybody, and when you contact coaches, you are making their job just a little easier. Episode 290, myth number 10. I already received a letter from a coach, so I'm being recruited. The last of the 10 myths is I already received a letter from a coach, so I'm being recruited. The truth is that coaches send out hundreds of letters to athletes they know little about. See how to separate yourself from those hundreds of recruits. Episode 291, Part 1 of an interview with the Givens family. Hearing from parents of recruits is a great way to learn. Emily and Drew visit with us about their son, Grant's recruitment and commitment to play basketball at Drury University in Springfield, Missouri. You also hear about Emily's recruiting experience to play basketball at the University of Nebraska. Episode 292 is Part 2 of the interview with the Givens family. The second part of the interview with the Givens family hits on how Grant negotiated camps and did research throughout his recruitment. Episode 293 is FAQs about recruiting. RecruitMe offers the RecruitMe 3.0 athletic scholarship system that includes a manual in PDF form. One of the great sections of this manual includes the FAQs. This episode covers all 17 of those FAQs. Frequently asked questions like, what kind of grades are acceptable in order to receive an athletic scholarship? Or, my son's coach wants to write him a letter of recommendation. How important is that in the recruiting process? Episode 294 is advice from recruiting families. Another section of the RecruitMe 3.0 system manual is advice from RecruitMe families. You will get input from these families about parent-athlete teamwork, control of the recruiting process, using templates, and being proactive. Episode 295 is It's Springtime. Usually, each change of season, the Athletic Scholarship Podcast covers subjects on what to do during these transitions. 4 things highlighted to do in the springtime are, number 1, take care of academics. Number 2, work on your skills. Number 3, communicate with college coaches. And number 4, get help from a parent or a mentor. These will enhance your spring and upcoming summertime recruitment. Episode 296, Parent Spring Cleanup. Episode 295 covered things for student athletes to do as spring approaches. But what can parents do? This episode hits on 4 things for parents to do to help. Number 1, discuss the process with their student athlete. Number 2, help by being a scheduler. Number 3, help by being an administrator. And number 4, be the encourager. Episode 297, Part 1 of a 2-part interview with Quinn Nelson. An interview with a college athlete gives you great insight into both the process of recruiting and how college actually feels. This is the first part of an interview with Quinn Nelson, a college basketballer at Southwest Baptist University in Bolivar, Missouri. Southwest Baptist University, or SBU, is a Division II team in the GLVC Conference. Quinn is now a graduate student at SBU and is competing in his 5th year for the Bearcats. Episode 298, Part 2 of an interview with Quinn Nelson. We continue Quinn's interview and hear from Quinn about his recruiting and college experience. Quinn gives advice on time management, being on time, and using the resources that college provides. Episode 299 is a breakdown of an interview with Quinn Nelson. I decided to break down the interview with Quinn and highlight some of the great, informative information we gleaned from the interview. Check out this deeper dive into this college student-athlete's interview. Episode 300 is called A Celebration. Episode 300, like the title says, is a celebration of the 300th episode milestone. You get a little history of the Athletic Scholarship Podcast, a tribute to the founder, John Fugler, and some recruiting advice from past episodes. Episode 301, Recruiting Key Points and Discussion Points from the 7 Steps to an Athletic Scholarship. The RecruitMe 3.0 system and manual gives you 7 steps to an athletic scholarship, and this episode takes the key points from each of those steps. This is part 1 of 2 episodes. Episode 302, Points from the 7 Steps to an Athletic Scholarship. More recruiting key points and discussion. Episode 302 is a continuation of key points of the 7 steps to an athletic scholarship. Get athletic recruiting tips about online registries, eligibility centers, myths, and more. Episode 303, RecruitMe versus Recruiting Services. RecruitMe's goal is to provide you with as many free and inexpensive recruiting resources as possible. Hear how RecruitMe matches up to high-priced recruiting services. See how RecruitMe saves you time, money, and stress. Episode 304 is called A 50,000-Mile Journey. The inspiration for me to host the Athletic Scholarship Podcast and be the owner of Recruit Me was my oldest son's recruitment. This episode is a look back at his 4-year career at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. His journey and our journey began during his recruitment. Come and travel with me over his 4-year baseball career for the Wildcats, to Big Ten foes games and games with Duke, Georgia Tech, and more. Episode 305, Part 1 of 2 of an interview with Chris Ford, a parent. Hearing from a parent of a recruited athlete gives you valuable information. So this interview is 3 times the value as Chris Ford tells about his 3 recruited student athletes. Episode 306 is Part 2 of the interview with Chris Ford. Part 2 covers Zach, a baseball player. Kara and Abby are softball players. The Ford family learned from their older son Zach's recruitment to help both Kara and Abby make their college decisions. Listen in. Episode 307. This is the hardest and most important step in recruiting. There are many items a recruit can do to get recruited. Hear how my car business background guides you to the hardest and most important step in recruiting. Episode 308. Time, ego, or money. How do time, ego, or money balance out in your recruiting journey? Which is the most important? You might be surprised to find out which affects you the most in your recruitment. Episode 309. Recruiting is like selling cars and playing baseball. My background influenced our family's recruiting journeys. Hear how the basics of selling and baseball convert into recruiting. Episode 310, 4 Things Not to Do in Recruiting. This episode talks directly to the student athlete, but parents will get something out of it too. These are 4 don'ts to help you through your recruitment. Episode 311, an interview with Aaron Womack Jr. A college friend of mine helps with this interview. Aaron Womack Jr. played college basketball, has coached high school and college basketball, and is a retired teacher and high school administrator. He also has a son getting recruited in basketball. Get both recruiting advice and life advice from Aaron. Episode 312 is Part 2 of an interview with Aaron Womack Jr. Part 2 of the interview with Aaron gives you more recruiting and life advice. Aaron has his own education podcast called An Hour Early Podcast. Find it and listen in. Episode 313, Recruiting Takes from Social Media. I have time to peruse social media, and there is a lot of good and bad posts out there. I hope to base more future episodes on social media subjects and posts. I found a post from @CoachKrowalski on Twitter and took the subject and expanded it into many different angles. The post was, too many kids have been taught that the goal of high school sports is to achieve an athletic scholarship. Here's the truth. The goal of high school sports is to learn how to be a better person, better teammate, better communicator, and to enjoy being a teenager, something you can't get back. Listen in and see how I break down this post to help you in your recruitment. Episode 314, Back to School Recruiting Task. As school started back, the Athletic Scholarship Podcast gives you 7 tasks to help you get your athletic scholarship and an opportunity to play your sport in college. You may not use them all, but see if there are 1 or 2 that at least help you. Episode 315, The 3 Recruiting Amigos. When I say 3 amigos, you might think about the movie, but the 3 amigos of recruiting are these 3 friendly and cooperative tools. The introductory email, the player profile, and the recruiting questionnaire are all powerful ways to kick off or boost your recruitment. Episode 316, Examples of the 3 Recruiting Amigos. As the title of this episode indicates, this is a continuation of the subject of episode 315. Now I give you examples of 3 of each of those 3 amigos. Episode 317, Track Your Communications and One-Page Updates. Once you get the 3 amigos working for you, then you will need to track your communications and send updates to college coaches. See how to build and do both. Episode 318 is part 1 of an interview with Josh Reynolds. The impactful interviews continue through 2022. This interview with Josh Reynolds is a 2-parter. Coach Reynolds was Parker, my older son's pitching coach and interim head coach at Northwestern University. Coach Reynolds is now with PBR Colorado as their scouting director. Learn about PBR, which is Prep Baseball Report, and get recruiting advice from a veteran college coach. Episode 319 is part 2 of the interview with Josh Reynolds. In part 2 of the interview, Coach Reynolds gives you an insight on metrics and stats in baseball, recruiting timing at different levels, and tips on being patient and gaining mental strength. Episode 320, Recruiting Tips from the Josh Reynolds interview. After the 2-part interview with Quinn Nelson earlier in the year, I followed up with a breakdown of high points of the interview. This episode hits on the high points of the two-part interview with Coach Josh Reynolds. You will get advice on recruiting for all sports, not just baseball. Episode 321 is an interview with Easton Hanks. I had the opportunity to interview my nephew, Easton. Easton just graduated from Westminster College, an NCAA Division III college in Fulton, Missouri. Easton played special teams and defensive back for 3 years for the Blue Jays. Hear how Easton ended up at Westminster and his advice on recruiting and how to excel on the field and in the classroom. Episode 322, the perfect worksheet to find your perfect college. RecruitMe wants to provide you with as many free and inexpensive recruiting resources as possible, so I developed 2 quick and easy worksheets to help. The College Parameters Worksheet and the School List Startup Worksheet are new and powerful tools to add to your recruiting toolbox. Episode 323 is called, Is Your Future College to be Found on Twitter? Episode 322 covered the College Parameters Worksheet and the School List Startup Worksheet. Being familiar with colleges at all levels can help you find a college program that fits you. Scrolling through social media can help introduce you to colleges you may not have known about, and you can research those schools and possibly add or subtract a school from your list. Episode 324, Nolan Ryan and You. Topics for the Athletic Scholarship Podcast can be inspired by many sources. Questions from student athletes or parents, past experiences, social media, and even Netflix. As I watched the documentary on Nolan Ryan, the Hall of Fame Major League pitcher, one part jumped out at me as they revealed that he almost quit after 3 years in the major leagues. But his wife told him to stick it out. A new pitching coach made some changes to Nolan's delivery, and Nolan listened. Nolan had never failed and struggled with not being the best. Many college players face this situation. Listen in and see how Nolan Ryan can affect your recruitment. Episode 325, Your English class may be the key to get your scholarship. My past has influenced many items that we did in both of my sons' recruitments. It hit me one day that my English class in high school set a foundation to help me in my college classes, organizing my sales career, and then guiding my kids through their recruitment journeys. Listen in and see how. Episode 326 is an inside look at the NCAA, NAIA, and NJCAA websites, and this episode specializes in eligibility centers. I got on the NCAA.org website one day and was looking for information on a certain subject. An hour later, I didn't get to that subject, but I chased many other subjects on the site. So this series guides you through specific subjects that are on the NCAA.org, NAIA.org, and NJCAA.org websites. So you can save time, money, and stress, and learn so you can be involved in your recruiting. Check out eligibility centers on this episode. Episode 327, Academic Requirements. This is the second in a series of inside looks into the NCAA.org, NAIA.org, and NJCAA.org websites. Let me guide you directly to the academic requirements of all levels of play: NCAA Division I, Division II, and Division III, NAIA, and junior college. Episode 328 covers guides to the college-bound student athlete. The NCAA.org website has a great free resource called the Guide for the College-Bound Student Athlete. The NAIA.org website has a similar document too. Listen to the third in a series of the looks at information-filled websites for the NCAA, NAIA, and JUCO levels. Episode 329 jumps out of the series and is called Recruiting in the Fall to Winter Sports Transaction. This episode takes a break from the looks at websites and tells you how to transform from fall to winter sports in high school and your recruitment in any season of sport. Episode 330 gets you back into the series of looks inside the NCAA, NAIA, and NJCAA websites. These websites have sections on questions to ask college coaches and administrators during your recruitment. Episode 331 is FAQs, or Frequently Asked Questions. The fifth episode in a series of direct pinpointed looks at the free NCAA, NAIA, and NJCAA websites covers FAQs. Don't get lost in the maze of recruiting information and listen to this series. Episode 332 is What to Know Before You Go. You will learn about scholarships, the probability of playing a college sport, and some of the differences at each level of play, their cost, and academics. So last week's episode 333, is covering NIL, or Name, Image, and Likeness. Learn more about the NIL policies and the terms of the NIL. Some of it is hard to understand, so I encourage you to ask coaches that you are talking to about NIL possibilities and the effect on their program. That gives you an overview of the previous 51 episodes from the year 2022. Here at the Athletic Scholarship Podcast, I enjoy bringing you recruiting education information. I hope you get some helpful nuggets of recruiting help to guide you through your recruitment. Join me next week for the first episode of the new year, 2023. Episode 335 will be a Happy New Year edition and is titled, Let Me Reintroduce Recruit Me. Join me next Tuesday on recruit-me.com or go to your favorite podcast app. Recruit Me and the Hanks family would like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.